Out here in the Ozarks, the air hangs thick with stories, smelling of cedar and strong coffee. That's how it was on a Tuesday morning at the Three Brothers General Store. You had old Tom Brown, a man built more like a mountain than a person, leaning against the counter. Rosemary, the matriarch who runs the place with an iron will and a warm heart, was going over her supply lists. And then there was Doc Holliday, tipped back in his chair, spinning his ivory-handled revolver like some folks spin a pen. The quiet was so deep you could hear a mouse sneeze. Then the old radio on the shelf crackled to life, the voice tinny and frantic. "Emergency in Newark! We've got a giant gorilla looks like the one from the movies Knee-Deep in the White River. He's using the Island Slough Bridge as a back-scratcher." Doc stopped his spinning, a slow grin spreading across his face. He looked over at Tom. "Well, boys, I reckon that ain't on the inventory list. Tom, you feel like a road trip?" "No, wrestling a giant ape isn't your everyday chore, even for this crew." They knew they couldn't just rush in without a plan. That's when Sugar, a tiny Siamese cat with eyes the color of a summer sky, hopped onto a wooden crate. She looked at each of them, and those blue eyes started to glow like neon sapphires. She reached out a delicate paw and tapped a hidden latch on a massive metal cylinder, tucked behind the grain sacks, the time silo, as they called it. The silo hissed, little bolts of electricity danced across its surface, and the heavy door swung open. Out of the steam stepped a figure leaning on a gnarled staff. "The kitten says you have a giant problem," Merlin announced, his voice echoing with age and power. Behind him, clad in dark armor, the Black Knight cracked his knuckles, ready for a brawl. Merlin smiled. "We specialize in those." The whole team was assembled. The giant, the matriarch, the gunslinger, the wizard, the knight, and of course, the cat who started it all. Down on the banks of the White River in Newark, the scene was surreal. King Kong towered over the trees, but he looked more confused than angry, like a tourist who took a very wrong turn. The crew lined up, ready. Rosemary took charge, her voice cutting through the tension. "All right, nobody draws a sword. Merlin, you get ready with that jungle dream mist. Tom, you and the knight stand by those buildings. Keep him from tipping over if he sneezes." Doc simply tipped his hat to the colossal ape. "Easy now, big fella," he called out. "We're just here to buy you a drink and find you a ride home." It was time for the magic. Merlin slammed his staff into the rich Arkansas mud. A swirling lavender fog, smelling of night-blooming jasmine and rain, rolled across the river and enveloped the giant gorilla. Kong let out a yawn, a great gust of wind that rustled the trees for miles around. As his giant eyes started to droop, Sugar let out a high-pitched musical trill. The time silo, somehow hauled away down the ridge, began to pulse with a soft light. The door opened, but instead of a cage, it revealed a shimmering portal, a window into a lush, green jungle paradise, his true home. With one last sleepy look, the great ape stepped through, and the portal vanished. Back on the porch at Three Brothers, the sun was setting, painting the Ozark sky in shades of orange and purple. Newark was safe. Old Tom was passing out apples to the crew. Rosemary was finally sitting down for a spell, and Doc was dealing a hand of cards to the Black Knight, who, it turns out, was a pretty sore loser. Up here, we don't just tell stories. We live, and if you ever find a giant footprint down by the Newark Bridge, don't you worry. It was probably just a very big fella looking for a friend. Thanks for listening to our tale. Follow us for more legends from the Ridge.